It's news time. Information is power. Be current. The news headline: Nnamdi Kanu will be released next week. Charges dropped. Kemi Olunloyo. The news in full. Controversial journalist Kemi Olunloyo has given a date when Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra (IPOB), will be released. In a post on her Twitter handle on Thursday, Olunloyo stated that the Muhammadu Buhari-led federal government may drop all charges against the pro-Biafra activists. She recalled that she had told Nigerians that IPOB leader would be released soon. She wrote, "This time next week, I am predicting that Nnamdi Kanu will be released from the DSS custody and all his federal charges dropped. He may be given exile stipulations, but then he is a Nigerian national. I told you first last month that he would be released soon, and that is a word." And this is coming after Abubakar Malami, the Minister of Justice, had actually said that it is that the release of Nnamdi Kanu, for now, that is, the pardoning is actually premature, saying that after the pleading of the Southeast leaders, there have been controversies about consideration of Nnamdi Kanu's release after the pleading by the Southeast leader, led by the First Republic parliamentarian Amici Bazuluki, and the Minister of Justice has said that if at all he will be granted pardon, then it must have definitely be after he has been convicted. And for now, he has not been convicted at all, and therefore, the release or the pardon is quite premature. And most probably, Kemi Olunloyo's prediction might actually be true or not. Therefore, Kalu himself, who is actually one of the governors, a former governor and also a senator representing one of the constituencies in the southeast, that actually visit Nnamdi Kanu, to do one or two talkings, of which Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer actually condemned this, saying that he was not present there, while, and it was not even in line with the court guidelines for him to be at that place, of which Kalu had actually replied him as well that his visit there was, following the court regulations, and also AGO4 was actually carried along about the visit, but did not meet up with the time, which is 2 p.m., and he is a person that stays tuned with time, and perhaps, because of that factor, of the time factor that he met up with and AGO4 could not meet up with, perhaps that is why, AGO4, the counsel to Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer, is actually vexed. A former aviation minister, Femi Fani-Kayode, was on Tuesday reinvited by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, following investigations into alleged documents falsification. Fani-Kayode, alongside a former Minister of State for Finance, Nnamdi Usman, is standing trial on alleged 4.6 billion naira money laundering before Justice Mohammed Aikawa. Other defendants are Yusuf Danjuma, a former chairman of the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON, and the company Joint Trust Dimensions Nigeria Limited. They are facing a 17-count charge of money laundering preferred against them by the Anti-Graft Agency. They had each pleaded not guilty to the charges and were granted bail. The trial had begun before Justice Aikawa. Witnesses were being led in evidence until Aikawa was transferred out of Lagos Division. The charge was consequently reassigned to a new judge, Justice Daniel Osaigo, and the defendants were rescheduled for rearrangement on October 27. Meanwhile, at the last adjourned date, Fani-Kayode was absent from court, and the defense counsel, who appeared on his behalf, Mr. Fred Ajua, informed the court that it was an admission at Kubwa General Hospital in Abuja. He had prayed for an adjournment on that grounds on behalf of the second defendant, but the EFCC prosecutor, Mrs. Bilikisu Buhari, informed the court that the same tactics had also always been adopted by the defendant whenever he does not want to attend the court. After going through the court record, Justice Osiago noted that it was clear that the defendant had issued a similar excuse 5 times. The court had consequently ordered the defendant to be present in court on the next date without fail. The court also ordered him to pay a fine of 200,000 in addition. When the matter came up yesterday, all the defendants were present. Counsel to second, third, and fourth defendants, Morrison Kwaka San and Clement Onwenuwo, also announced their appearance. the first defendant counsel, Chief Ferdinand Obi, was absent following a letter to that effect. The prosecutor, Mr. Rotimi Oyedepo, did not oppose the letter of the first defendant counsel. Oyedepo, however, informed the court that the prosecution was glad that the court had figured out from its record that the second defendant, Fani Kayode, had sought repeated excuses from the court. He told the court that the prosecution had recently discovered that all letters sent by Fani Kayode was fake. At this point, the court stopped the prosecutor on the grounds that it was a matter of urgency ought to trash out before the court acted on letters to grant an adjournment. Osiago said that having granted an adjournment on the letters, the court had become functus officio. In response, Oyedepo told the court that the agency was currently working on the report and will do the needful. A drama, however, unfolded after the case was adjourned until January 24. While Fani Kayode was still at the corridor of the court, an EFCC investigator, Mr. Shuaibu, walked up to him alongside the prosecutor, and after some tete-a-tete, the defendant entered his vehicle and followed the EFCC operatives to their office. The operatives, who confirmed the arrest to journalists, said that at the time of filing this report, Fani Kayode was in their custody on quiz over the false documentations. In the charge, the defendants were alleged to have committed the offences between January and March 15. In counts 1 to 7, they were alleged to have unlawfully retained over 3.8 billion naira, which they reasonably ought to have been formed part of the proceeds of an unlawful act of stealing and corruption. In counts 8 to 14, the defendants were alleged to have unlawfully used 970 million naira, which they reasonably ought to known formed part of an unlawful act of corruption. Meanwhile, in count 15 to 17, Fani Kayode and one Olubode Oke, who is said to be at large, were alleged to have made cash payments of about 30 million naira in excess of the amount allowed by law, without going through a financial institution. Besides, Fani Kayode was alleged to have made payments to one paste poster CO PPC of number 125 Lewis Street, Lagos, in excess of amounts allowed by law. All offences were said to have contravened the provisions of Sector 15, Subsection 3, 416(2)(b) and 16(5) of Money Laundering Prohibition Amendment Act 2012, and therefore Femi Fani Kayode had actually been rearrested so as to know in details the full information as from his end. Interested in whom is to take over from him in 2023, for which they pretentiously worship him like God just to gain favor. The Tinubus who brought restructuring to the manifesto of APC has not spoken because they fear that if they do, they will not be allowed to contest for the presidency of the country come 2023, for which his party, the APC, faced with stiff opposition for not implementing their promised restructuring program. So, the party's national executive, including the President Muhammadu Buhari, decided to set up a committee under the chairmanship of Nasir El-Rufai